My grandfather left me his estate and $3 million. The parents who cut me off at 17 showed up at the wall reading saying, "We'll manage it for you." But when the executor opened the folder, they turned pale. "Hi Reddit, throw away because my family lurks here. I, 27F, just inherited my grandfather's estate and $3 million after his passing. This isn't a brag post, trust me, I wish it had come under different circumstances. But it's relevant because my parents, who cut me off when I was 17, suddenly decided to re-enter my life the day of the wall reading. Some backstory: I grew up in a very controlling household. My parents favored my younger sister, let her get away with everything, and treated me like free labor. I worked 2 jobs as a teenager to save up for college, but when I turned 17, my parents said, "You're on your own now, you're a liability, and we can't keep supporting someone who doesn't listen." I was kicked out with a single duffel bag. No college fund, no family car, nothing. My grandfather, my dad's father, was the only one who quietly helped me. He would slip me grocery money, cover part of my tuition when he could, and remind me I was worth more than what my parents made me believe. He told me once, "Don't worry kiddo, I know where my estate is going." I thought he was just trying to comfort me. Fast forward to last week. The wall reading. My parents walked in dressed in black like they were the stars of a drama show. My mom clutched my sister's hand, and my dad immediately started talking to the lawyer before anything began. Loud enough for everyone to hear, he said, "We'll manage everything for her. She's too young to handle finances like this." I just sat there, silent. When the executor opened the folder and started reading, my parents' smug expressions melted. My grandfather had left everything, the estate, the investments, the $3 million in liquid assets, to me. Not a cent to my parents. Not even a token gift. The lawyer paused and then added a line I'll never forget. Mr. Grandfather's name specifically instructed that his son and daughter-in-law are to have no involvement in this inheritance. He stated they abandoned her. They do not get to benefit from what I built. My mom gasped like she'd been slapped. My dad's face went beet red. My sister actually whispered, "That's not fair." I just sat there, trying not to cry because for once in my life, someone publicly chose me over them. That's when the threats started. My parents cornered me in the parking lot afterward, saying things like, "You don't know how to manage money. You'll lose it all within a year. Give it to us to keep safe." My dad even grabbed my arm hard enough to bruise and hissed, "You owe us for raising you." I pulled away, got in my car, and left. But they've been blowing up my phone nonstop ever since. I don't know what their next move is, but something tells me this is only the beginning. So, I thought the nightmare ended with the whole reading, but I underestimated just how far my parents would go. After I left, I blocked their numbers. But 2 days later, they showed up at my apartment banging on the door. My landlord had to threaten to call the police before they finally left. A few hours later, I got an email, not from them, but from a lawyer they hired. The email claimed my parents were entitled to manage the inheritance since I was emotionally unstable and financially incompetent. According to them, I had a history of reckless behavior. Translation: I moved out at 17 to survive, and worked 3 jobs through college. They were basically trying to frame me as incapable of handling my own money. Luckily, my grandfather's executor was 10 steps ahead. Before his death, my grandfather had set everything up in a trust with very clear stipulations. Not only was I the sole beneficiary, but he had included letters, receipts, and even copies of emails showing how my parents cut me off at 17. He literally anticipated they'd try to swoop in and steal it. The executor told me bluntly, "Your grandfather didn't trust them, and neither should you. Legally, they don't have a leg to stand on." Still, my parents didn't back off. They started a smear campaign with extended family. Suddenly, I was getting Facebook messages from aunts and cousins I hadn't spoken to in years, all saying some version of, "Family comes first, be mature, and share the inheritance. Your parents sacrificed so much for you. Why are you being so cold-hearted? Money is temporary. Blood is forever." It hurt more than I want to admit. These were people who never once checked on me when I was homeless at 18, yet now they were flooding my inbox with guilt trips. The worst part? My sister posted a long rant on Instagram calling me selfish and ungrateful. She ended it with, "Don't worry Mom and Dad. We'll get what's rightfully ours." The entitlement is mind-blowing. So, I did what my grandfather always taught me, document everything. I saved every voicemail, every email, every text. I told the executor, and he advised me to install cameras at my apartment and the estate, which is still being processed. He said something that made my stomach drop. If they can't get the money legally, they may try to pressure you in other ways. And sure enough, yesterday when I drove past my grandfather's estate, I saw my parents' car parked in the driveway. They had a locksmith with them. Good thing I changed the locks the day after the will reading. When I pulled in, my dad shouted, "You don't deserve this house. This is ours." My mom burst into fake tears, saying, "Sweetie, you're breaking up the family. You'll regret this when we're gone." The locksmith, realizing what was happening, packed up and left immediately. That was the moment I knew, this isn't going to end quietly. I wish I could say things cooled down after I caught my parents trying to break into my grandfather's estate, but it only escalated. The next week, I was served. My parents actually filed a petition in court, claiming I was unfit to manage the inheritance due to emotional instability and irresponsible life choices. They even attached fake character statements from a couple of relatives who swore I was a troubled girl who couldn't keep a job and was deeply in debt. All of it was lies. My lawyer, the executor recommended one who specializes in estate disputes, wasn't even surprised. He told me families pulling this stunt is common. And because my grandfather had been so meticulous, their case didn't just fall apart, it imploded. At the hearing, their lawyer painted this sad picture of my parents as loving caregivers who only wanted to protect their daughter from financial ruin. Then came my lawyer's turn. He handed the judge a thick folder of receipts, emails, and handwritten letters from my grandfather himself, spelling out how I was abandoned at 17 and forced to fend for myself. He read out loud a line from one of my grandfather's letters. They cut her off, told her she was a burden, and left her to survive alone. They will not touch a single cent of what I leave behind. The courtroom was silent. My mom's face went pale. My dad clenched his jaw so tight I thought his teeth would crack. When it was my turn to speak, I kept it simple. I said, "Your Honor, my parents didn't even come to my college graduation. They didn't help when I was sleeping in my car. But the moment money appeared, suddenly I'm their daughter again." The judge dismissed their petition on the spot and warned them that further harassment could result in a restraining order. I thought that would scare them off. Instead, it seemed to make them more desperate. 2 nights later, I got a voicemail from my sister. Her voice was smug, dripping with entitlement. "Enjoy your little victory. But you can't keep all of this to yourself. Family always wins. You'll see." The very next morning, a local cousin sent me screenshots from Facebook. My mom had posted a long sob story about how her ungrateful daughter stole the family estate and was planning to sell off everything her grandfather worked for. She painted herself as this tragic, betrayed mother and begged people to pray for her. The comments were brutal, half of them from relatives telling me I was a disgrace, the other half from strangers telling her to lawyer up. At first, I was furious. Then I realized my parents had just handed me the rope to hang them with. Because in her post, my mom accidentally admitted they'd tried to access the estate before the inheritance was finalized. Which is illegal. I sent the screenshots to my lawyer. His reply was short but powerful. "This is exactly what we needed." By the time my mom's Facebook post was making the rounds, my lawyer had already filed for an emergency injunction. He explained that because my parents had not only attempted an illegal entry into the estate but also publicly admitted it online, we now had solid grounds for both a restraining order and potential criminal charges if they escalated further. Part of me wanted to just disappear into the inheritance quietly, but another part of me was tired. Tired of always being the one they steamrolled, manipulated, and silenced. So I decided no more hiding. When the court date for the injunction came, I showed up with my lawyer, a binder full of screenshots, and the executor as a witness. My parents came too, dragging my sister along, dressed like they were attending a funeral. My mom even brought tissues and dabbed her eyes dramatically every few minutes. Their lawyer tried to spin it again. My clients were simply grieving, confused by the legal process, and reaching out in desperation to save their family's legacy. Then my lawyer calmly slid the Facebook post across the table, enlarged on paper, with my mom's words in bold. "We tried to get into the estate before she locked us out." The judge leaned forward and said, "Are you admitting you attempted unauthorized access to the property?" My dad went red. My mom stammered. "Well, I mean, we were just," the judge cut her off. "That's enough. This court doesn't tolerate harassment disguised as grief. Petition for injunction is granted. The respondents are prohibited from contacting or approaching the petitioner, her residence, or her inherited property. Hearing that out loud was surreal. For the first time in my life, the law was on my side against them. But the fallout was even better. When the ruling became public record, extended family, who had been spamming me with hate messages suddenly, went quiet. A cousin I barely talked to messaged me privately and said, "Okay, I didn't realize it was that bad." Sorry I piled on. Your parents made it sound different. Meanwhile, my sister doubled down. She posted on Instagram that I had brainwashed the court and that she would fight for what's rightfully hers. But then, get this. The executor revealed that my grandfather had actually left her something, a letter. Not money, not property. Just a single handwritten page sealed in an envelope. She got it a week later. The letter basically said, in my grandfather's blunt handwriting, "You were given everything as a child, attention, support, freedom. Your sister was given nothing. This inheritance is not yours to demand. It is hers to live freely for the first time. Do not embarrass yourself by trying to take it." She didn't post again after that. The silence from them since then has been eerie, but freeing. As for me, I've been working with a financial advisor to set up my future responsibly. Part of the money is going into investments, part into a scholarship fund in my grandfather's name, for kids who were kicked out of their homes young like me, and part into buying the estate outright as my home. Walking through the halls of my grandfather's house now feels different. It doesn't feel like I'm trespassing in my parents' shadow anymore. It feels like it's mine. Last week, I stood in the old library, his favorite room, and read his words again. They abandoned her. They do not get to benefit from what I built. I cried, but it wasn't grief this time. It was relief. Validation. The kind I'd been chasing my whole life. And here's the thing, Reddit. I don't even feel like I won. What I feel is free. Free from constantly begging people who never loved me to see me as worthy. Free from the cycle of manipulation and guilt. My parents lost the money, the estate, the fight. But what they really lost was their last chance to ever have power over me again. I've gained more than just an inheritance. I've gained peace. Epilogue. I still get random messages from flying monkeys in the family, but I don't even bother responding anymore. The block button is my best friend. My lawyer has a file on standby in case my parents slip up again, but honestly, I think they finally realized the game is over. Grandpa wanted me to have a life free of them. And for the first time ever, I finally do.